How's everybody doing? Y'all excited for today's forum? We have a lot lined up. Everyone just go ahead, please introduce yourself in the chat, say hello. We have a special icebreaker question. Please share what GOTV activities have you been doing these past couple of weeks? Let everyone know. We'll get started in a couple of minutes while we wait for everyone to come in. So I wonder, how did everyone live up to the freeze? Anyone had any troubles? I was lucky.
Well, I guess we all were, because we have silence here, so that is a blessing.
Candidates, also feel free to share any contact information to your websites if you want in the chat. That is completely fine. Like I said, everyone who just joined us, please introduce yourself in the chat. We'll get started in a couple of minutes, around 2:05. Also, share what GOTV activities have you been doing recently, whether it's phone baking, block walking. Let people know, encourage, motivate other people to do the same. Just so you know, in the chat, we're also sharing the slide deck that we'll be presenting today. So all the information that we share, you can easily have a copy of yourself. It also gives you a little heads up on what to prepare for today's meeting. We'll be posting that continuously throughout the meeting. So if you do jump off and jump back on later, you'll expect to see it again, don't worry. So far, this is turning to be a good turnout. Nice to see so many familiar faces. Looking in the chat, we see we got a lot of people working hard this election cycle. That's good to hear. All right, everybody. I'll tell you what, it's 2:04. I say we go ahead and let's get this started. All right, Ruth, if you would like to go ahead and take over from here.
All right. Welcome, everybody. The slide that's before you now is showing the steering committee members, and it reminds all of us who are present, if you haven't done so yet, please introduce yourself in the chat box. And the question we've been answering there is, what get out the vote activities have you been involved in the last couple of weeks? So feel free to do that, and candidates feel free to include information about your website there as well. Our steering committee members are John Floyd, me, that's Ruth Milburn, LaTanya Whittington, Chuck Cruz, who you'll be hearing in a different role later today, and Jeremy Schott. I will restate our mission, our Revolution Harris County mission. We are working in the furtherance of economic, political, social, racial, and environmental justice through education, direct action, and political engagement. On the agenda today, we have a special renewal endorsement, which Jeremy will explain to you when he introduces Andrea Duhon. There will be 3 panels up for endorsement. The first panel will be the federal, state, and local races. That panel will begin about 2:15. There will be 2 judicial panels. The first, the criminal judicial panel, will begin about 2:40. And the second will be the civil panel, also including any appeals courts. And then the last thing on our agenda today will be information about how you can vote in today's endorsement, and also how you can be active supporting our endorsed candidates and our revolution in general. So I will turn this meeting over to our treasurer, Scott Fulis, so that he can explain how we are now a political action committee, and Scott is the treasurer for that political action committee. He will explain our financials to you. So take it away, Scott.
Thanks, Ruth. Hi, everybody. We do this treasurer's report every month. And as of the end of January, we had about $1,400 in the bank, which was a nice bump from the month before. We took in about $500 in January. And that was thanks to, and we have a tradition of reading all the donors' names: Scott Dollinger, Scott Fulis, Ruth Milburn, Angela Lancelin, Neil Aquino, Carla Wyatt, Benjamin Abel, Deshaun Jones, Toria Finch, Stephen Dubel, Jerry Wald, John Floyd, Clayton Tucker, Dylan Osborne, Charles Cruz, Norma Iman, and Jeremy Schott. So hopefully I didn't totally destroy anybody's name there. We don't have enough monthly donors, folks. Brazoria County and Fort Bend County have more monthly donors than we do. We just can't let that stand. So we could use a few more monthly signups. We'll be putting that link in the chat, and it will be on your screen in just a moment. So we have some nice handy QR codes for you. If you would like to give to the chapter, the Harris County chapter, that is the QR code on the right with a little Our Revolution Harris County logo in the middle. That goes to financing things like this forum and our GOTV efforts for our candidates. If you would like to give to the national organization, which finances what National does across the country, that is the QR code on the left. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you, Scott, for that report, and also the opportunity on how to donate to us. So going over the rules of the panels that we'll have. So as we mentioned earlier, we're going to have 3 panels. Our first one's for our federal, state, and local candidates. Second panel is for our criminal judicial candidates. And our last panel is for our civil and court of appeal candidates. We will give you 3 minutes to answer your question. Keep in mind, we ask that you watch Scott Fulis's screen. He will be our timekeeper. The background of his screen will be green, yellow, and red. If it's green, that means you're good to go. Answer the question. As soon as you see yellow, that means you have 30 seconds left. Please start wrapping up. And once you see red, we ask that you stop your answer. We have a lot of candidates here today. We ask that everyone be respectful, give everyone the time that they deserve to speak. We want to make sure everyone is heard, so please do not go over your time. The format will be very simple. Once we will introduce your name, ask you, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. We will introduce you, the position you're running for. During that time, you can do a brief introduction and answer the question provided. At the end of the form, we will ask lightning round questions where you will just answer using reactions on the bottom of your screen. We will repeat these instructions if you did not catch them, so don't worry. But before we go ahead to our first panel, we have a special introduction that we want to do for Ms. Andrea Duhon. Just so you know, last month, I'll call it, I made a mistake. Last month, we had our renewal candidates. Andrea Duhon had a race that confused me to where, due to gerrymandering, it kind of changed to where she lives in the precinct. Because of that, we accidentally left her off the list. So we're asking for her renewal endorsement vote during today's vote for new endorsements. We also invited Andrea Duhon to speak for a few minutes here. And Andrea, are you here?
And she will have 2 minutes since that's what we gave the renewal candidates last month.
That is correct. So Andrea, since last month we gave our candidates 2 minutes, you only have 2 minutes to answer. Your question is, very simply, well, first of all, introduce yourself.
Yeah, no worries. So it's completely understandable why that would be confusing, because it confused most of us. I actually figured out that I have to run for this seat the day after everything was gerrymandered, and it was the week that filing began. So it's, a mess, but I am very grateful for you guys allowing me to come in and speak to you today and getting this opportunity. I'm Andrea Duhon. I'm running for the Harris County Department of Education trustee seat for Precinct 4. I currently represent Precinct 3. As you guys know, they kind of switched around. If I'd like to continue to represent the area that I live in, I have to run for re-election on this ballot. So do I have 2 minutes now, or did y'all want to ask a question first? Or
Yes, so the 2 minutes will start now. Your question is, what progressive changes have you made during your time in office?
Such a great question. So what's important to me is that we make sure that we are always supporting people over institutions, people over special interests, people over profits. And I've proven that I am that progressive in this seat because of the things that I have done progressively. And those are things like a program that we worked for and created called Tools for Teachers. So we came in and recognized that there was an issue with teachers having to reach into their own pockets to pay for supplies. And we pushed and pushed and created a program where teachers can go online, choose the supplies that they want. They have to register under their public school email address, and the supplies were sent to them at their schools. I had such great responses from so many teachers. We were able to mitigate the costs that they were having to go out of their own pockets for supplies. Now teachers are still going to do it. They can't help it. They still buy things for their students, but we were able to make a big difference in those lives. We actually also pushed to increase the minimum wage to a living wage. We brought it to $15 an hour. We are continuing to push to ensure that that's even higher, because frankly, I don't believe that $15 an hour is enough to live on. And then also, whenever there were big issues with mask mandates going on, most different school districts, most places were saying, sorry, the state is saying that there are going to be these repercussions if we put mask mandates. We can't do that. But I moved to enforce mask mandates anyways, because whenever we are talking about what difference that makes, we're talking about our staff and the students and their livelihoods. And that was more important to me than any kind of repercussion we could see from the state. And so those are just proof of the things that I do to fight for people. And I hope to have your support to continue to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you very much for keeping it within your time limit. So as I said earlier, you'll be able to vote for Ms. Duhon's re-endorsement in the ballot that we will present at the end of the meeting. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to LaTanya Whittington, who will be our host for our first panel. LaTanya?
Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. First of all, I would like to just thank everyone for being here. Congratulations to the endorsees to be, or whatever the right word is to say. This is my first year, actually, being with our revolution in the steering committee, and also doing the endorsement committee, and I did the convention. I just wanted to say that I have learned so much from this organization. And my heart and soul already knew that I was progressive and had progressive thoughts and feelings, and know that we needed a change. You guys are amazing and a part of this change, So that's what brings you guys here, Good luck to you. And we're going to start the questionnaire. So as Jeremy says, you have 3 minutes to introduce yourselves within that minute and to answer the question that's provided to you. Make sure you keep your eye on Scott, because he's the green, yellow, red light guy. So that's what we got going, all right? So the first person we got is Laura Jones for U.S. Representative for Texas A. Are you here, Miss Laura Jones?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, there you go. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Great, great. Okay, Miss Laura, well, here's your question for you. It appears that you became politically active in 2018, then ran for this post unsuccessfully in 2020, and are running again now. What concrete steps have you taken in the last 2 years to be successful in this run? And specifically, given that you are the only Democrat with 11 Republicans racing to the bottom on the other side, how do you plan on boldly represent our revolution's missions?
Well, 3.5 years ago, I moved from Houston, Texas, where I was born and raised, to a small red rural county surrounded by other rural counties that are also red. And I immediately saw a lack of infrastructure. So as a county chair, as a field director for Texas Senate District 3 under the non-urban rural caucus within the Texas Democratic Party, that became my mission, was to begin to pull people together to build infrastructure, to find support and resources outside of the major cities where there is no money, where there is no office, where you have 5 or 6 Democrats, maybe in a county, that are active and willing to do any type of volunteering. So I just continued that. When I lost the primary election, I immediately got to work getting out the vote in the counties where I had started to build the infrastructure, Montgomery County, San Jacinto County, Walker County. I immediately began to get out the vote regardless of COVID. I used social media as a vehicle to do that. So running this time in 2022, I'm able to build upon the relationships and networking that was put into place last time. I never did stop running. I left my campaign bank account open, and I continued to be a voice for rural Texas and for the issues that people in rural Texas faced. Since the redistricting, the district is now half Harris County, half rural county.
These are
So
these are Bluetooth, but
Sorry,
I got muted somehow.
Laura. Okay,
So
I guess
Republicans,
give her back
it's
like
a
3
race to the bottom.
seconds or something.
Don't worry.
Okay. So Republicans, it's a race to the bottom. I'm the only Democrat. I'm talking about common sense issues that everybody, the majority of people, want to see progressive change in this district.
Okay, and did you introduce yourself and your where to contact?
Just
So I'm Laura Jones, And I put it in the chat, Laura Jones for Congress.com is my website, and you can reach me at laurajonesforcongress@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you so very much. All right, so we're moving on to Diana Martinez Alexander for US Rep for Texas 38. Are you here, Miss Diana?
I am, I'm here.
Okay, great. Well, here's your question. Now, in your answer number 7 on championing and living wage, okay, you were clear that we could not operate under the status quo.
Mhm.
However, as a legislator, you will need to fight for or against specific plans. Can you be more specific as to what a living wage means to you?
Yes, thank you for that question. My name is Diana Martinez Alexander, and I'm running to be the first representative of Texas District 38. And I thank you for inviting me today. So when we talk about a living wage, I know firsthand what it's like. I have the perspective and the lived experience of someone who's been in a working class family. My mom still cleans houses to this day. And so I know that families are struggling when it comes to having food security and paying their rent, especially during the increased stresses during the pandemic. So when we talk about a living wage, we're talking about do they have access to decent housing that's safe and that's clean, and
I
they
got
have
something. I'm listening to something.
they
I'm
have
sorry,
access.
I'm gonna ask if everyone can mute your computer so we're not hearing you in the background. Go ahead, Diana.
So if they have access to reliable, transportation that's affordable, and mass transit that's, environmentally sound, all of those pieces add to what I consider a healthy and sustainable living wage. And that's part of our society just functioning to help us all thrive. When it comes down to the numbers, every housing market is going to have a different rate for their rent, their average rent. And so it's hard to say what exactly that wage should be. I know that a lot of people are pushing for a $15 minimum wage, and I think that's a great place to start. But when we're talking about families who are trying to survive in different areas like New York, San Francisco, Seattle, those rents are going to be, so astronomical. We have to think of not just what would work in our area, but what's going to work for our nation as a whole. So I hope that that answers that question. Of course, wrapped up in the transportation and housing issue, we also need to consider access to quality health care, and making sure that families have safe and reliable access to public schools, meaning that we don't want to have a takeover of districts like they were threatening with HISD, and in the past they had threatened to close neighborhood schools based on scores. So it's kind of like a global thing versus just one data point of how much people make per hour. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Diana Martinez Alexander for US Rep Texas 38. All right. So next we have Ben Chow for Harris County Commissioner Precinct 4. Ben, are you here?
Hello, yes.
Okay, there you go. Here's your question. If elected, you want to partner with the Office of Economic Policy and opportunity to identify ways the county can does diversify the recipients of county contracts, as most contracts are awarded to white, male-oriented businesses. Given how difficult it is to change the power dynamic, what action do you envision taking to diversify county contracts?
Thank you for that question, LaTanya. And again, everyone, my name is Ben Chow, running for Harris County Commissioner Precinct 4, which is from around the River Oaks, Upper Kirby area. Think about where Shepherd is, all the way west to Katy and everything in between. So it's a big district. First and foremost, in order to diversify our contracts, we have to be upfront and honest about how power is currently centered in county government. I am proud to say that I am the only Democrat in this race who has publicly taken a pledge to refuse county contract vendor money. All of my opponents have refused to take that pledge as well. And some of my opponents are currently taking in 5-figure checks. So I need all the support that I can get to raise an equal, comparable amount of money and also to run the strong progressive race we need to win. Secondly, once by taking out the influence of current existing contract vendors, then you can actually look towards how we can try to diversify, right? Because let's be honest, if the same vendors are the ones paying you, for your campaign to help bankroll it, then it's going to be hard to tell them no when it comes time to renew a contract or to open a bidding process for a contract. What we need to do is move away from the current system. Right now, $91 out of 100 being spent goes towards firms owned by white men in Harris County. And let's be honest, we are not a 91% white man county. That's just ridiculous. So how do we diversify? Right now, only 50 cents go to Black-owned firms, 60 cents go to Asian Americans, about $2 go to white women, and $4 go to Latinos. So in diversification, one part of it is this. We need to help bring mentorship programs to people of color-owned firms so that they know how to apply for county contracts. Mentor them, partner with them so they know best practices for improving their business products as well and their services. And lastly, we have to go into the community to promote what it is that county contracts look like. So that means transparency. On our websites, we need to translate our documents into different languages. The people who don't speak English see that we are actually trying to provide opportunities. Secondly, we need to put the county contract information online. So as much as we can legally to show what it is that we are looking for in the county, what is like a best practices type of contract, we need to put that online so that everybody can see what the rubric is, what are the solutions that we are looking for, and so on and so forth. And lastly, how do we work with others? So I applaud our current commissioner support that's working with school districts across the county to help diversify their contracts as well. What can we do to bring along even more government offices around Harris County to encourage them to continue to diversify their county vendors as well? At the end of the day, the whole point of this is simple. It's about making sure that everybody has an equal shot at getting county dollars, because that's the power of the county here. We have an almost $5 billion annual budget, and it doesn't make any sense that 91% of them go into white male big corporations right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben Chow for Harris County Commissioner, Precinct 4. All right. Okay, next we're gonna have Charles Chuck Cruz for Texas House 128. Charles, are you here?
I'm here. Thank you very much, LaTanya.
Okay, nice to see you. Okay, so here's your question. In your answer on the environment, you mentioned carbon fees and dividends, which would not generate any government revenue for investment in green energy initiatives, since it would return the revenue directly to households. Okay. Is that going to be aggressive enough to get us to where we need to be by 2030? Okay. And do you support the Green Deal both nationally and for Texas?
Thank you for the question. Absolutely. So I was active with Citizens Climate Lobby for a while, which is where I got introduced to carbon fee and dividend. I think it's a great start. It is not sufficient. It is only one step in the process of making a truly sustainable economy. Texas made its name in the petrochemical industry, and I understand that it is near and dear to the hearts of a lot of folks, but it also grew out of other industries into a brighter future, and that's what we need to do. Texas has the potential to be the world leader, not just in the United States, but truly the world leader in sustainable energy from wind and solar, and possibly even maritime-based solar and wind energy. So we have enormous potential here. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the legislators in Texas and Congress are beholden to the carbon billionaires and the majors. So I recognize the carbon fee and dividend is a good step. It is not nearly sufficient in and of itself. The point of carbon fee and dividend is to make the other forms of energy more competitive, because the vast majority of the expense borne by the use of carbon is borne by the people who aren't using it. The people that suffer from CO2 pollution, from global warming, the folks that live in the low-lying areas that are going to be the ones that we see damage from Hurricane Harvey, from hurricanes, from floods. All of that tends to disproportionately affect lower income folks. So having the carbon fee and dividend to, one, really truly represent the cost of carbon, because it's hidden by being borne by those low income folks, and then promoting getting a better, more equal footing for the solar and wind. They definitely have the potential. I've seen it. I've been out to West Texas. It's hypnotic. It's absolutely gorgeous. I strongly recommend folks take a drive to Lubbock sometime, preferably on an electric vehicle if they can. But Texas has the potential to do these things. We are just chained by folks that are stuck in their old ways. And I'd like to get into office and help make that possible.
Okay, thank you so very much. Charles Chuck Cruz for Texas House 128. All right.
Thanks, y'all.
Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be honest. Jeremy said, and was it Scott, about messing up people's names. So I'm gonna say Nam for Texas House 147. And what I want you to do, Nam, is I want you to tell me how to say your name right now. And then I'm not gonna mess it up.
Yeah, you can just call me Nam. My full name is Namrata.
Oh, and then I messed that up. Please tell me your name.
It's Namrata, but you can just
Namrata?
Namrata. Yes.
Namrata.
Mhm.
And your last name?
Subramanian.
Subramanian. That's your name. For Texas House 147. All right. So here's your question. All right. And your answer number 17 in the questionnaire regarding the end of mass incarceration. Okay. You detailed your desire to eliminate police presence in schools. Now, as an educator, specifically as a modern day high school teacher in the era of mass shootings and routine shooter drills, can you help us understand how you have come to this policy position, and how will you convince your fellow legislators?
Yes. Thank you so much, Latanya, for that question. So once again, my name is Nam, and I'm running for District 147 State Representative. This question is really near and dear to my heart because I teach at a Title I school that serves predominantly Black and Brown low-income students, and they're constantly criminalized in school, whether that be in the dress code. If a student walks in out of dress code, they get sent straight to the in-school suspension room for the rest of the day and just missed out on their learning. Students there's a bigger police presence on campus than an actual counselor presence. There's not trauma being addressed in the school level. And how do we expect students who face trauma every day to be able to go through the school system and succeed if their trauma is not actually being addressed, right? If a student's in school and they're having a lot of other things going on. They're not able to focus in on the classroom. And that's something that I've noticed as a teacher firsthand. And that's why I always address the student first before even coming to the curriculum, right? Math is such an important subject, but I can't teach math if I have a student in my class whose father just got shot the day before, right? And these are all real situations that I'm bringing into the classroom. So because of that, the main three things that I talk about are: one, restorative justice. I was actually one of the founders of the Restorative Justice Council at my school last year, because I noticed that there was a disproportionate amount of students that were being funneled into the school to prison pipeline. If you get into a fight, they immediately get sent to an alternative school. And does the alternative school actually address trauma? No, right? They're just basically funneling all the students who have the most trauma and end up in, getting into these physical altercations or other issues, and putting them into an alternative school where they're not actually doing any social emotional learning work, and they're not addressing the trauma at all. So that's one of the things that, if elected, I would fight for, is to make sure that every school has a restorative justice council in place, because we know we punish Black and brown students at way higher rates, particularly boys at the high school level. And this is not productive to anyone's learning at all. I think it's so important that we decriminalize the dress code. As a queer woman myself, we know the dress code is not conducive to queer students and a lot of students from different cultures in general. And that's another way in which there's a huge learning loss. I could go on and on about, the education system and the school to prison pipeline, but again, it all comes down to investing in trauma. Even in, outside of the school, and when students are out in the real world as adults, the people that commit the most crimes, it's usually coming from a place of trauma. It's because they aren't able to put food on the table, and they need to, there's a huge lack of access to money, and because of economic injustice that occurs in our society. So I encourage you to please look at my website, nomfortexas.com. I really laid out everything. Everything is justice oriented when it comes to economic justice, raising the minimum wage. All of these things lead into criminal justice reform. So again, thank you so much for having me here, and vote Nom for District 147.
Thank you so much, Nom, for Texas House 147. Okay, so my next question is for I'm sorry, tell me.
Aurelia.
Aurelia, okay, I'm so sorry. Aurelia Wagner for Texas House 147. Thank you very much. Okay, so in your answer, question number 21 in the questionnaire, regarding income and inequality and labor, could you please elaborate your position and tell us whether you support and repeal of right to work, allowing state employees to strike, promote the organization of workers owned corporatives, okay? As well, do you support a progressive state income tax in place of regressive local property and sales?
Okay, thank you so much for the question, and thank you for the invitation to be here. My name is Aurelia Wagner, and I'm running for state representative. I'm not a career politician. I'm a 10-year veteran educator, and I'm running for my students. Your first question was in regards to, I'm sorry, could you read the first part of the question for me again?
I sure can. And your answer regarding income inequality and labor, could you please elaborate on your position and tell us whether you support the repeal of right to work, allowing state employees to strike, promoting the organizations of workers owned cooperatives?
Thank you so much. Yes, I am in support of the repeal of right to work, which is a regressive policy created by corporations to keep people in line. Okay, they make it seem like they're doing us a favor by working for them, when really it's the other way around. It is just stifling the voices of working people and keeping us trapped in unsafe conditions, low wages, and it makes this authoritative elitist mentality that you should be glad that you have a job that you're making $8 an hour at, when really people need to be able to collectively put their voices together to stand up to these greedy corporations and businesses and say, no, I deserve to have a livable wage. I deserve to be able to meet and to organize with, with my, fellow colleagues and my coworkers, and we should be able to stand up and say that we deserve, we deserve these basic things. And so I definitely agree with the repeal of a right to work, because really what they're saying is you have, we are giving you the right to work here, when really it's the other way around. And so I will definitely support and advocate for that. And then the other part of your question, if you could repeat.
Okay, as well, do you support a progressive state income tax in place of a regressive local property and sales tax?
Right. So the thing is, everybody wants to, not everybody, a lot of people want for us to have social services to give people better qualities of life, but nobody wants to pay for them. The voters have already said that they don't want a state income tax, but people don't want to raise their property taxes. We have to figure out some more strategic ways for us to gain some revenue in the state of Texas so that we can pay for things. One of the things that I've suggested is that we go ahead, one, because it's the right thing to do, decriminalize and legalize cannabis, and open up that economic portal for us to be able to fund the social services that we need. I personally am for a state tax, because I believe that we need more funding for our schools. We need more funding for social services, so that when we call someone out for maybe someone who's going through some mental instability, that we have a trained licensed healthcare professional that comes instead of a police officer who is there trained to enforce laws. And so it's no wonder why they're finding reasons to arrest people when they're coming out on a call that's supposed to help people. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much for answering the question. Aurelia, right? Wagner, running for Texas House 147. Now, we definitely have to ask this question, and this is for everyone, the members and all. So this is for Nam, and this is for Aurelia. So Nam, you could go first. Aurelia, you could go second. All right, here we go. If you do not win the primary, will you support the winner if they are OR endorsed?
Did you say for me to go first? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, Nam and I, we've actually talked. I think that this young person has a bright future ahead of her. I hope that I receive the endorsement. If I do not, I will definitely support her campaign, because I know that in this crowded field, she and I are the two most progressive candidates. And I believe in, I believe in her fight, and we're fighting for the same thing. And so, like I said, we've talked before about.
Sorry, we didn't explain this as lightning round, so let's try to keep this yes or no. Sorry, Aurelia.
That's okay. Go ahead, Nam. I guess we got to give her like at least 30 seconds.
Yeah, like Aurelia said, we know we're the most progressive candidates in this race. If she makes it to the runoff, I will fully support her, and she will support me if I make it to the runoff.
Okay. Well, actually, we didn't have it, but anyway, now we're going to get started with the lightning round. So, okay. All right. So this is the lightning round for all of the candidates that I just questioned. That would be Nam, Aurelia, let's go back on my list. Laura Jones, Diana, Ben, and Charles. Okay. So here's your question. And what I want you to do is just raise your hand up. And then if it's a no, just don't. Okay. So here's the first question. Do you take money from corporate PACs? Raise your hand up. Okay. Second question. Do you think that cannabis should be regulated like cigarettes and alcohol, with exceptions for medical conditions? Okay. Last question. Do you support Medicare for all?
I
All
have
right.
I have a question about how you wanted us to vote. I'm sorry.
All right. So if you support it, and if it's a yes, you would raise your hand. If it's a no, then you would leave it down.
I think we're
and
going to have to pause for a moment after each one so people can see whose hands are up.
Okay.
And
Do
you
you-
can
Do we
use
do the lightning
the
round over?
you can use the reaction button at the bottom of the screen to raise your hand. Or should we do yes, no, or the raise hand? Jeremy.
The raise hand function would probably work better if you support.
Okay.
It looked like some of the candidates might need clarification on the marijuana, whether it's the medical exception. I think kind of confused whether it was just going to be something that was going to be available for recreational use, or whether it would be, just a medical exception use.
You want to clarify what you meant by the question, Latanya?
Okay. Do you think that cannabis should be regulated like cigarettes and alcohol, which is the age limit of 18 and 21? Okay. So once it is regulated, for medical patients that are younger and that need cannabis, they will have the right to get it, okay, because they'll have their medical card. But that's what the exception is, okay? So what we want to know is, do you feel like it should be regulated like cigarettes and alcohol? Or if you don't feel like it should be, then it's a no.
Okay, so are we going to redo this or?
We can.
All right, so let's do the first question and then pause to make sure everybody can see the answer.
First question, do you take money from corporate PACs? Are we ready for the next one? Next question, do you think that cannabis should be regulated like cigarettes and alcohol, with the exception for medical conditions? Next question, do you support Medicare for all? Okay, great. Well, that completes the first session of our forum. And I guess you could call it round one, basically. The next round would be the criminal judicial panel. And we'll take a 5-minute break, all right? And you're welcome to stay if you'd like to hear answers and the questions. Please, you're welcome to stay. I would like to thank all the candidates for staying and answering the questions. Very thorough. You guys are amazing. Thank you very much. And thank you. And we shall get back started. Jeremy, you want to take over?
Yes, no problem. Well, actually, due to time, we are running a little ahead of schedule. I think it probably would be a better idea if we go ahead and jump into our next panel for our judicial judges. So I want to thank everyone who was in our first panel. Thank you for visiting. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. We want to be respectful of your time. So if you need to go, you can go. Just know that we will post our ballot towards the end of the meeting, and it will be active for the remainder of the day. As for our next panel, this will be led by our co-hosts, Ruth Milburn and Linda Phoenix. Ruth, Linda, your turn.
Did you want to repost the rules for the panel, since maybe not all of the candidates had been on when you did that before?
Sure thing. Just so everybody knows that as soon as it loads, there we go. We are going to ask you a question. During that question, you have 3 minutes. During that 3 minutes, we ask that you briefly introduce yourself and answer the question that you are given. Please keep an eye on Scott Felis's screen, where he will be our timekeeper. If you see his background is green, you are good to go. Please go ahead and answer. If you see yellow, that means you have 30 seconds left. Please wrap up your answer. And if you see red, that means you are out of time. We have a lot of candidates that we have to get to, so we ask that you please be respectful of the time, and we thank you. At the end of the question format, we will have a quick lightning round, which, mind you, will be quicker than round 1 was. So for panel 2, if there aren't any other questions, we can go ahead and begin.
Jeremy,
Ruth?
do you want to change lightning round to roll call?
Sure thing. We can do a roll call instead, where we'll call your name and you can give a simple yes or no answer.
All right. I have the first question, and it is for Porscha Brown. Porscha, are you on the call?
I am, Ms. Milburn. How are you doing today?
Great. Good to see you. You'll have an opportunity to introduce yourself and the race you're running for and answer this question. You indicate immigration and how it works with the criminal justice system is one of your priorities. How will you do that as a sitting criminal court judge?
Thank you very much, Ms. Milburn. So, hi, everyone. My name is Porscha Natasha Brown. I'm running for Harris County Criminal Court at Law Number 3. It's currently an open seat. It was previously held by a judge who's now a federal magistrate, which is something to be very proud of, that we're getting Democratic judges in the federal branch. A little bit about myself. I'm currently a public defender here in Harris County. So that means I represent individuals who can't afford an attorney, but they still deserve zealous defense. So that's what I do at the public defender's office. I'm running for this seat because I care. I care about the rights of the accused. I care about crime victims, and I care about our community. Every single day in court, I see in real time what works and doesn't work in our criminal justice system. And I plan to bring that to criminal court number 3, my diverse background, my knowledge of the law, I'm a bit of a nerd, and just my excitement and energy. I plan to make this court fair and equitable for all. So in regards to your question, as a judge, we're required to be unbiased and create fairness for all in the courtroom. When it comes to immigration and how it works, one thing that you can do in your courts is ensure that you're making courts accessible for those who are whose first language is not English. As much as we can, the courts are already using interpreters and they're already using documentation in different languages. I just want to make sure that we respect all that don't speak English and ensure that their documentation as well as an interpreter is always present. Another thing as well is just ensuring that pretrial services is manned with all the resources that they need. I know it doesn't seem like pretrial services would be a factor for immigration, but it is. So for example, let's say that you have an immigration hold when you're put into a criminal court. You then are bonded out of your criminal case, you go to an immigration court and you have a bond there. Being able to access your pretrial services officer, asking them questions, being able to reach out to the court is essential. And so that's what I plan to do and to address in regards to immigration and this court. One thing too, one factor that I think is important is that everyone that comes into the court, regardless of the language that they speak, is treated with respect and they're treated fairly. And that in regards also just that will assist in making the system better for everyone. I know right now we have a lot of disparities and a lot of people in jail because of a different variety of reasons. And so that's what I plan to do in this court. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us a few seconds back. I guess we should ask this question now. You are running for a position for which there's another person on today's panel who is running as well. If you do not win the primary runoff, which we hope will happen, would you be willing to support the other OR endorsed candidate if that candidate wins?
And Ms. Milburn, I'm not sure if any of the people in my race are on this call. I don't believe they are, but nevertheless, I don't think they are, but if they were to win, I'm a Democrat day in and day out. And so if whoever wins needs me to block walk, I'm going to do it, because I am not just one person. I'm here to represent Democrats as a collective. And so that's what I'll do no matter what. But I will say, Ms. Milburn, I am asking for your endorsement and to be your candidate. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So hi, everyone. I'm Linda Phoenix, and I'll be alternating with Ruth on asking the candidates during this particular section. So next up is Kelly Andrews for Criminal Court at Law number 6. Are you with us, Kelly?
I am. I'm right here. How are you, Miss Phoenix? At the top, I think, or at the top of my screen. Who knows how this is working?
Thank you so much. So the question that we have for you is, what is your position on cash bail reform, and please elaborate?
Well, I guess I'll do the intro first. I'm Kelly Andrews. I am the judge of Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 6. I decided to run in 2017. I was a defense attorney for 12 years, and I was very sick of running into judges that wouldn't listen to the needs of my clients, because I felt like if they would listen to the needs of my clients and what we needed to help them, we could hopefully at least have a shot at getting that person out of the criminal justice system. But they just had policies that applied to different crimes, but never to the people. So since taking the bench, I've been very thoughtful and careful, along with my colleagues, about treating everyone that comes into the court as an individual and tailoring conditions to make sure we can meet those needs, those underlying conditions, so we have a shot at getting people out of the system permanently. I helped create and preside over the Harris County Misdemeanor Mental Health Court. So that's one of the underlying conditions I've spoken about: mental health, also obviously substance abuse, housing insecurity, educational insecurity, and job insecurity. And just putting people in contact with those services. No one is ever going to jail again, that I can tell to the misdemeanor courts in Harris County, because they don't have money. So with that being said, how do I feel about bail reform? I, along with my colleagues, when we were elected, we hadn't even taken the bench yet. We immediately started meeting about the O'Donnell lawsuit. We immediately sought the dismissal of that lawsuit. We have worked and continue to work constantly on Local Rule 9 as it applies to bail reform, because it is an ever-evolving situation. Fortunately, we worked out a consent decree with the plaintiff's attorneys, because if we didn't, the decision that just happened in the Fifth Circuit recently would have maybe overturned O'Donnell, but it didn't. We kept it locked in, and it'll be locked in. And Harris County now proudly is a model for the rest of the nation for criminal justice reform. So how do I feel about cash bail? I'm against it, and I'm all for bail reform. I hope that answers your question.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to pass it back to you, Ruth.
All right. The next up is Selena Alanis. Selena, are you on the call?
Hi, Ms. Milburn. Good afternoon. I'm here.
Very good. Selena, we'll ask you to introduce yourself a little bit, and also to answer the same question. What is your position on cash bail reform? Please elaborate.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Selena Alanis. I'm a candidate and running for judge for criminal court number 6. I'm originally from the Rio Grande Valley. I was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley. So I've seen the separation, the forcible separation of families at the Rio Grande Valley. So I have practiced immigration and criminal defense for the past 12 years in Harris County. I do have and bring that experience of immigration law to the bench. I understand the consequences that each person faces with the criminal convictions. It's a lifelong consequence, even for a reduced to a Class C misdemeanor. It's a hardship to our well, my clients, especially DACA clients, TPS clients, permanent residents, when a person's not properly admonished and doesn't understand the consequences that they're facing by pleading guilty, and they want a quick way out. Unfortunately, with some of my clients, they do have ICE holds. It represents roughly about 5% of them. So with a cash bail system, when they pay a bond in Harris County, they are sent over to an ICE facility where they have to pay another bond and another bond at 20%. It's not anything of 10%, 2%, or anything that the bail bond companies are doing in Harris County. It's a higher percentage. And once that person's out of the ICE facility, it's difficult to have them come out with a warrant out for their arrest for Harris County. So there are things and there are proper avenues to do. And I have been, I had spoken to judicial conferences in Harris County back in 2015 and 16. And I tried to institute a proper or streamlined way to help those who are coming out of ICE facilities, and it wasn't properly addressed. Now, my position on the cash bail system, I do agree with the bail bond reform that as it's currently in process, it should be furthered to much like the federal system, where it is presumed a pretrial release, absent any sort of flight risk or any sort of danger to the community per se. So that is my position on a cash bail system. And again, with my clients in immigration facilities, we're looking at people paying two different bonds. So taking that into consideration in a criminal court would greatly affect my clients going into the ICE facility by paying two different bonds. And it's a great economic impact on my clients and their families. And my goal is to keep families together and to reduce that economic strife that it's causing on that family. Thank you so much for having me. I'm running for criminal court number 6, Selena Alaniz.
Thank you, Selena. We need to ask both of the people who are running for this same office the question that I asked before of Porscha Brown, which was, if you should find yourself not running for this position as the nominee, would you support an OR endorsed nominee for your position? So since you're still on the screen, Selena, we'll go first with you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a Democrat born and raised, and I would support my opponent through and through. If I'm not able to make outside of the primary, I would support the OR endorsed candidate. Thank you so much.
And Kelly Andrews, same question.
What Ms. Alaniz said holds true with me too. I'm a Democrat. I'm going to vote for the Democratic candidate. But much like Porscha Brown said, I'd also very much like to be the one that got your endorsement. So, but yes, absolutely. I would vote for whomever you endorsed.
Great, thank you. And next up, I believe we have Mauricio Vasquez for criminal court at law number 7. Mauricio, are you on the call?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We'll ask you to introduce yourself and to answer this question. In your answer on bail reform, you said, no one should be jailed solely due to their inability to pay a bond. So does that mean that you would favor a system that eliminated money bonds, or do you simply want to reduce the bonds based on ability to pay, which would have to be determined?
Okay. So my name is Mauricio Vasquez, and I'm running for judge in county criminal court at law number 7. I'm originally from Monterrey, Mexico. I'm a proud immigrant. I came to Houston when I was 3 years old, and this has been my community ever since. I've seen areas of town change. I've seen gentrification. I've seen all the effects that the hurricanes and everything that's ever happened, how crime has affected certain neighborhoods, and how people, when given the opportunity to redeem themselves, are able to rise up to the occasion and make something of themselves. As somebody who came from another country, who couldn't speak the language that's mostly spoken here in Houston, you know, we had to, my mother and I was raised by a single mom, we had to figure out a way to move forward and make progress in our own lives. And those lessons that I've learned along the way have been instrumental in my career as an attorney. And I hope that I can bring those experiences to the bench and make sure that I'm taking everybody's experiences who are before me into consideration before making a decision as far as whatever they're requesting me to do. And to answer your question, I would support a system that would eliminate cash bail altogether. It's, like Ms. Alanis said, a system like the federal system is something that I think would be better put in place, where if absent these two factors, or if, the factors that are considered to release somebody on bail, if there's no issues, then people should be presumed to be released. It's either a yes or a no, because taking a guess at how much somebody can afford and how much somebody can't afford, it's so subjective that even if your intention is to release somebody on a low bond, there's no guarantee they're going to be out. So the question is, is this person a danger to the community that should be in jail awaiting trial or not? And if they are, then that's ideally the system would allow for us to make sure that the community is safe in that manner. But if they're not, then they need to be out, regardless if the bond says $1, if it says $100, or 50 cents, whatever it says, they need to be out. So thank you so much for having me today, and for considering me for your endorsement. And I look forward to answering your next question, I guess, after Judge Wright gets to go.
Okay. Next, we have our next candidate is Andrew A. Wright for criminal court at law number 7. Are you here? I see you. Yes. So on your survey, your questionnaire, you said that you support unions because they have improved things for all of us. Can you give some examples of ways our lives have been improved by unions?
Okay, all right, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself, and then I'll get to the question, Ms. Phoenix. My name is Andrew A. Wright. I'm the judge of Harris County Criminal Court at law number 7. Thank you today for having this forum, our revolution. Thank you for considering me for your endorsement. I'm a 14-year licensed attorney with trial experience. I've committed to bringing progressive change to Harris County Criminal Court at law number 7. I've done that. I'm the only board certified candidate in this race, and more importantly, I'm committed to continuing that progress and change in Court 7, along with my colleagues, help to bring about the changes in bail reform that we were just other people were just discussing, giving pretrial bonds and to nonviolent misdemeanor cases, establishment of a MAC program, and not requiring defendants to appear when their attorneys are working on their discovery process, so they can stay at home, spend time with their loved ones, or work and do some of the things that they need to do while they're out. As it relates to the unionization, I think that a lot of the massive gains that people have in our society have been brought about by hard work of people like unions. Unfortunately, our union participation rates have gone way down since the times of the 60s and 70s. I wish it was more, but they have got us things like a 40-hour work week and actual comp time or overtime, and a lot of the fair labor standards and stuff were brought about because of the strife and the progress made by people in labor unions. It has not been easy to get there. Unfortunately, like y'all were talking about some of the state candidates, some of those have been eroded, but I think that what unions have done for us have gotten us exactly where we need to be. I think it should go further. I think that there should be more. I'm not a civil judge. I'm not a legislator. I'm just a criminal judge, but I very much support unions, and have actually, as a lawyer, had the experience to fight to protect people's jobs, and had to fight to get a process done where they can actually avail themselves to a procedure. I did that for years with a local police union, or a sheriff's deputies union, did that for 5-6 years. Very proud of making sure that the process was fair. It also did work for other Harris County employees. Did a bunch of grievance processes that we had to fight through the procedural backlogs and the slug through with the bureaucrats of Harris County, and I'm very proud of doing that. And I will continue to make sure that working people in the working class in Court 7 every day have a fair shake, and actually can continue to go to work every day. And that's one of the reasons I changed our appearance policy, so that people don't have to come to court every 4 months or 4 weeks or 6 weeks like the old judge in that court used to do, and the Republicans that had that position. I do not want people to have to keep coming to work just to miss work or miss their families and things like that. And I see my time's almost up. Scott's giving me the rundown, so thank y'all.
Thank you. And do you want me to go ahead and ask this question, Ruth? It's for both.
Yeah.
Andrew. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So for Mauricio and Andrew, same question, real short response. If you do not win the primary, will you support the winner if they are OR endorsed?
If I could go first, absolutely. I'm a Democrat. Things cannot go back to the way they were before. We have made progress. I think we need to continue making progress and have specific ideas to make that progress. And we only have a shot at that if there's a Democrat on the bench. So I hope that it is me, but if it happens not to be me, then yes, I would still support Mr. Wright, Judge Wright.
Judge Wright?
And I would probably say almost exactly what Mr. Vasquez said. I am a Democrat. I will continue to vote for Democrats and help get progressive Democrats elected across the board. We don't need to go back to the Republican strategies that got us in the mess and in the problems that we are actually trying to undo now and to make some real progress. So yes, I hope it's me, but yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So next we have, our next candidate is Genesis Draper for Criminal Court at Law number 12. And are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
There you are. Okay, welcome. So well, after you introduce yourself, of course, here's the question. Do you personally support justice system reforms such as the elimination of sentencing minimums, criminalizing prosecutorial misconduct, and eliminating private prisons?
Hi, my name is Genesis Draper. I am the judge of Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 12. Forgive me for the cough. I am currently dealing with COVID, and so it's very difficult for me to get through any extended amount of talking without coughing, but bear with me. I appreciate the question. It almost seems too easy or too good to be true. I was a federal defender, a federal public defender before becoming a judge. I was a public defender for 13 years and loved the work. With that work, though, I had a chance to see the harms that mandatory minimums do. One of the reasons I left the federal government and my service there was the crushing sentences that many of my clients received. And so do I support the elimination of mandatory minimums? I absolutely do. Obviously, I am a misdemeanor court judge. We don't have a ton of minimums that are triggered. It's very rare that a minimum sentence, but just speaking from my experience, having witnessed dozens and dozens and dozens of years being handed out, I am certainly in favor of eliminating mandatory minimums. I think the next thing was, do I support the criminalization of prosecutorial misconduct? I do. That conduct has such serious consequences, and it should receive serious consequences. One of the things that I used to say, part jokingly, part not, when I used to be a defender dealing with younger prosecutors, when they would say, "Oh, Genesis, it's only 7 days, it's only 14 days," and I would be like, "Have you ever been in custody for 7 days?" And I used to say, prosecutors they should have to spend 48 hours in custody as a part of the job to just know what it's like. And so I absolutely, any prosecutor that engages in prosecutorial misconduct, there should be swift and harsh penalty for that. And then there was one other thing you asked. Can you tell me the last one really quickly?
Yes, eliminating private prisons.
Yes, easy. I mean, it's helped to fuel mass incarceration. That is the reason why that's the reason why we have mandatory minimums, to fuel our private prison system. And so I appreciate the opportunity to serve in this capacity. I have a really unique perspective on these issues, and I take that with me as I develop policies alongside my colleagues. Have to give a shout out to the county criminal court judges for all the work, all the political bullets they've taken to deal with some of these issues. And so I thank you for your time. Genesis Draper, you're a judge for Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 12. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is Jerrell Rogers, running for Criminal County Court at Law number 14. And I saw you log in, Jerrell. Are you still here?
I'm still here, ready to go.
Very good. After you introduce yourself, here is the question we have to ask you. You are taking money from Leadership for Educational Equity, which is the spinoff from Teach for America. It funds candidates that will advocate for charter schools, which divert state funds from the public school districts. Are you aware of that? And do you know why they are interested in funding a judicial race?
Thank you so much. So again, my name is Jerrell Rogers. I'm a candidate for Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 14. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana. I know we have an Evangel Christian Academy alum here. I've been in Houston since 2008. As it was mentioned before, I started off as a teacher. So I taught in HISD. I taught 8th grade English in the Sharpstown area, Sharpstown Middle School, and then ultimately went to law school since 2008 since 2013. I've been in the Harris County DA's office. I handle murders, capital murders. I train younger prosecutors, and that's kind of a little bit about me. A big part of what I've been running on is about community focus. And so that's why I always talk about my teaching experience. Shout out to all the teachers here. I'm a big brother with big brothers, big sisters, and I usher at my church because I think community involvement is important. In regards to your question about Lee, so Lee tends to support any of the Teach for America alums. They particularly do it in local elections, city council, judicial, things of that nature. And so typically speaking, Lee supports, from what I understand, anyone, or not anyone, but people that are associated with the mission that is aligned with Teach for America. And so I taught in a public school, so I think Lee understands the importance of public schools. Teach for America placed me in a public school. I'm a public school product. My mother was a public school teacher, taught 8th grade special education. And so I think that Lee understands that it's beyond just that in terms of trying to identify candidates that are pro-charter or pro-this. At the end of the day, you still want candidates that are going to be progressive. You want candidates that represent the values that we hold. And so the things that Lee, I believe, represents is that they understand that students in low income areas, that they're already starting off behind the 8 ball. They want to find candidates that will understand this and support this. So I think Lee understands that. I think Lee understands the importance of community involvement. Lee understands that you just can't show up in the community just because it's election time, just because it's Christmas time, it's Thanksgiving time. People are hungry outside of Christmas. People need help outside of election time. And so I think Lee understands that. And so I think the reason Lee supports me with that is because I have a demonstrated history of community involvement. I think Lee understands the importance of criminal justice reform. One of the things that you have a lot of time in these low income schools, as it was mentioned earlier, is that these students are showing up at school with things that are going on beyond just what's happening in the classroom, where there's criminal activity. I taught in a school that had a high gang population. And so I think Lee understands that it is important to find candidates that are just beyond that. They are not just politicians, that are not just working for years without any active involvement in the community, that you have to be able to reach the whole person, that's socially, economically, mentally, fiscally, everything. And so I think Lee understands the importance of that. And so my name is Jerrell Rogers, Harris County Criminal Court 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerrell.
Next, we have David L. Singer for Criminal Court at Law number 14. And I see that he is here. So after you introduce yourself, here's your question. You mentioned that implicit bias training is necessary so that we can stop the differences in the ways we police different communities. What about the rest of the justice system? Do you see implicit bias as an important issue for judges, prosecutors, and defense attorneys?
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Phoenix. I appreciate the time of the organization. I'm honored to come here today and seek your endorsement. My name is David Singer. I'm your elected incumbent Democratic judge in Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 14. And I'll get to your question, but I want to talk about three things that I think anybody would look at an organization like this in terms of what you would look for in terms of judicial candidates. The first thing is, is the person qualified for the position? Has the person earned the position? And does the person recognize the progressive issues and changes that need to be made in our community that this organization supports? So let me address that. I'm clearly the most qualified person in this race. I have 38 years of experience. I spent 2 years on the Court of Appeals, 6 years as an assistant DA, and 28 years in private practice. And now I've been on the bench for 3 years as your incumbent Democratic judge. I've earned the position because not only have I earned my stripes as a lawyer, I've spent 3 election cycles to get where I got. I didn't just come along, sign up and get elected. I ran in years when it wasn't great to be a progressive or a Democrat on the ballot. I ran in 2014. And I also ran in 2016 before I was elected in 2018. So I've earned my political stripes. I've been the member of 3 coordinated campaigns with the Harris County Democratic Party. And I've been endorsed by numerous organizations this time and in my past runs for office. And the last issue regarding supporting progressive changes and getting to your question of restorative justice. Yes, I do support progressive changes. I've been advocating for bail reform since long before I got elected, and I'm very proud that we have ended the cash bail system in misdemeanor courts. No longer do poor people have to plead guilty just to get out of jail. That was a sea change, something I saw as a lawyer over 35 years, representing thousands of people charged with crimes, doing 15 years of indigent defense. I saw that evil of people having to plead guilty to get out of jail many, many times. So that we ended that, I'm really proud of that. We've also brought in a max system, so no longer do judges pick and pay the lawyers for indigent defense. That's another huge sea change that we have made as judges on these courts. Regarding the issue of racial profiling and the inequities in our community, I have seen that over the course of my entire time on the bench, and I look at it every day. I observe, review probable cause in every case, and I found no probable cause in more cases than any criminal court judge in the county courts in 2019 because of that issue. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. David Singer, please re-elect your incumbent Democratic judges to county criminal court. We need to keep the progressive changes going. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ruth, I can go ahead and ask this question too.
Sure.
Okay, so this is just basic. Well, I'm sorry. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. Oh yeah. So to Jerrell and to David, if you do not win the primary, will you support the winner if they are OR endorsed?
I'll take that first. Absolutely. And I would walk into court 14 and shake Judge Singer's hand and ask, how can I support his campaign? Because it is important that we have Democrats elected.
Thank you.
And me too. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've always been a Democrat. I'm born from the party committeemen on Long Island, and I would be voting Democrat and supporting all the Democrats this election cycle.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. We're coming to the end of this section. We're getting close. So next is Jamal Haynes for 183rd Criminal District Court. Are you, I see you, yes, there you are. So after you introduce yourself, this is the question that we have. In your answer on bail reform, you stated bail policies should be mindful that a person is presumed innocent. Bail and conditions of bail should be done on a case-by-case basis. What type of reform would you support to ensure bail policies are reflective of being mindful of the presumption of innocence?
Thank you. My name is Jamal Haynes, and I'm running for the 183rd Criminal District Court. A little about me. I am a public defender. I work here in Harris County. I've been in the public defender's office for since 2016. I'm a senior litigator and a team lead there in the felony trial division, meaning I supervise a team of about 8 lawyers. I also conduct trainings inside the office for the defense bar locally and also across the state. And in my own caseload, I handle a lot of serious cases being murder, aggravated robbery, sex allegations, human trafficking, white collar offenses, things, those serious crimes. And I'm running for judge because I believe that we should have a criminal justice system that people can trust, meaning I want to help restore confidence in the system. We've seen things happen in the past couple of years that make us question what's really going on. And the community doesn't really have access to the courts in terms of talking and speaking with judges. And it's something that we should do. Judges should be present in the community, meaning people shouldn't just see your judges on TV when something happens. They should be able to walk into a coffee shop in the neighborhood and see a local judge there. They should see judges, in church and be able to have conversations with them, especially in minority communities, because unfortunately, minority communities are the ones that are constantly coming into court for one reason or another, whether it be that because they're accused of crimes or because they're crime victims. I believe that, let me get to your question with bail reform. Bail reform in felony court is not the same as in misdemeanor court. And what's happened is that people have come in after being accused of crimes. And unfortunately, some have to face long periods of pretrial detention. In my opinion, that is an issue for people who are presumed innocent, meaning we are punishing people when there has been no due process and there's no determination that a person is guilty. So people are losing their livelihoods by spending sometimes 2 to 3 years sitting in jail waiting to have their cases heard by a judge or by a jury. We can use bail to help prevent some of those injustices. And bail simply lets a person out of jail if they promise to come back. And unfortunately, we have a system with cash. If we can get rid of a system that relies solely on cash, then we will be in a much better place. Unfortunately, the legislature hasn't done that yet, and they haven't moved towards eliminating cash bail. So judges are in a position where they have to make those decisions and try and balance it out with the use of personal bonds. Regarding bail conditions, when a person comes into court, a judge has the authority and the discretion to figure out what is necessary for each person. One of the things that's happening right now is that we have a huge influx of people having ankle monitors. I was walking into Walmart the other day.
Great, thank you. Okay, so Ruth, I'm passing it back to you.
All right, the next person on our list is Abigail Anastasio. Abigail, I didn't see you. Are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. We'll ask you to introduce yourself and then answer this question. Would you favor a system that eliminated money bonds, or do you want to simply reduce bonds based on ability to pay, which would have to be determined?
Okay, well, first I'll introduce myself. My name is Abigail Anastasio. I'm the presiding judge of the 184th Criminal District Court. A little bit about my history. I grew up mostly overseas, moved to Houston in high school, and then subsequent to that, I attended the University of Houston part-time, worked full-time throughout that. And then after that, I was a teacher in HISD for approximately 7 years. I taught high school English at Chavez High School in Southeast Houston. After that, I went to law school at night, and then I worked at the Harris County District Attorney's Office in felony prosecutions. Subsequent to that, I was a defense attorney, primarily doing indigent defense. I tried capital murders. I've done every type of case you can imagine. I've also done work in the federal system as well. And then I ran for judge in 2018, and I've been on the bench for 3 years. Now, let me get to your question with regards to eliminating bail and or reduction. I favor a system that models the federal system in that we need to have hearings. That is one of the things that has been lacking in our system in Harris County. We do have ways to deny bail and or have revocation hearings. However, the prosecutors have not been asking for those hearings. They will file blanket motions and not have the judges rule on them. So unless an officer is called to court or a witness and a hearing's held, the judge does not have the discretion to hold somebody with no bond or revoke their bail because the rules of evidence applies to those hearings. So if you don't see in the clerk's record a motion that's been signed by a judge and or a clerk's record, that means that the state did not move forward on the motion. So there are ways for the state to utilize those. And unfortunately, the judges have been getting media that makes it seem as if we are just completely ignoring the rules of evidence and or Texas bail. That being said, the federal system has release with just the promise to return and or not committing any new law violations. And there are specific instances on felony cases where that would be completely appropriate for low-level offenses. There's also a way to release with conditions. All of these require hearings and findings by the judge. Also, the federal system has a sua sponte motion by the judge that can be made with a hearing. So I believe that if a judge has the evidence that's presented by the prosecutor that requires, that proves that someone may be a potential danger to the community or may be at a severe flight risk, then money bond may not be appropriate in that particular instance. And so I do favor a federal system, but I do believe that the prosecutor needs to be held to their burden. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Chris Morton for the 230th Criminal District Court. I see, there you are. So after you introduce yourself, this would be the question. It's actually the same one. Would you favor a system that eliminated money bonds, or do you simply want to reduce bonds based on ability to pay, which would have to be determined?
Thank you. My name is Chris Morton. I am the judge of the 230th Criminal District Court. A little bit about myself. I am a first member of my family to go to college, much less law school. I'm lucky enough to have a family that made a lot of sacrifices for myself so that I can do that. I after law school became a prosecutor. I served there for about 4.5 years. And then I went to become a defense attorney. About half of my practice was in indigent defense. I came to love indigent defense. And one of the things that I saw quite often was how judges at misdemeanor level and felony level would use bail bonds and cash bail as a means of oppression in order to keep people in custody and to force pleas. That's one of the reasons I ran for judge in 2018. And since taking the bench on January 1st, 2019, I have fought very hard to change the culture of how we treat bail in Harris County. Within the first month of being a judge, I had police officers and police officers unions protesting inside of my courtroom, trying to get me to change my stance on lowering bail amounts and using conditions for the safety of the community. Now, as a judge, I can't endorse any legislative changes or constitutional changes that would be necessary to go to a federal type system, but I can tell you this: no amount of money paid to a bondsman can do anything to protect the community. No amount of money paid to a bail bondsman can protect an alleged victim. It is only the bond conditions that we place on an individual and their ability to adhere to them. And that's where our focus needs to be. And just like my colleague, Judge Anastasio said, we are bound to make our decisions on the evidence that is presented to us. If the district attorney fails to bring evidence to hold someone to no bond under the constitutional provisions that allow it, there's nothing we can do. If whenever there's a violation of a bond condition, the district attorney does not move forward on a hearing to revoke, increase, or deny bail, there's nothing we can do about that. That's because the law must apply, and all the law must apply to every case. That means in every case, there must be due process. In every case, equal protection must apply. And in every case in criminal law, the presumption of innocence must be present. Without those things and without the rules of evidence requiring the district attorney to bring evidence, there is nothing we can do to change the system that we have. So my push has been to use non-monetary conditions for the safety of the community and to lower bail bond or bail amounts to the point where people can make their bail, and if allowed, to do a personal recognizance bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm passing it back to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, the next person up is Natalia Oakes, who's running for the 330th Juvenile District Court. Natalia, would you introduce yourself and answer this question? Please give an example of implicit bias in your court, which you recognized, what actions you took to address the situation and the result.
Okay, my name is Natalia Oates, and I'm judge of the 313th Juvenile Court. I was a school teacher before, a mother of a mischievous teenage boy, and then I became a lawyer. And I naturally segued into juvenile court. I've been practicing, I was practicing there 18 years before being elected in 2018. But like Judge Singer, I'd been through a few cycles before when Democrats were underdogs. So now it's much more likely to be elected, I think, but not a guarantee. As for implicit bias, well, I think we all have implicit bias in us, and that's what I recognize. I don't know what someone is thinking when they're in front of me. I don't know how the lawyers treat their clients differently according to their race, gender, socioeconomic, but I know we learn this in judge school, implicit bias. So I think it's important for everyone to reflect on this. And this is why in the juvenile courts, we have, in order to get appointments, lawyers have to take 6 hours of implicit bias. And I remember in juvenile court, there used to be a judge who was blind, Chris Cole. And I thought, what a lovely thing. I think he was in the 315th, and now there's a Chris Cole Children's Fund, which I was sitting on the board of. So when they say justice is blind, this is part of it. And I think it's just a recognized characteristic that everyone take implicit bias. But I cannot say I can recognize when someone is thinking about that. Our courts are a microcosm of the world. We have healthcare problems, mental health problems, social inequality problems, immigration problems, crime. All this comes through our court. And then with domestic violence and CPS cases. So we see everything. And it's important for people to understand their subtle impressions of this. I wish I could be more, sorry.
Thank you, Judge Oakes.
So sorry.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was actually very helpful. So, and I apologize for not pronouncing your name correctly. So it's Natalia, right?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And I pass it back to Linda.
Next up, we have Leah Shapiro for the 315th Juvenile District Court. Are you here?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry, I can't see you. There you are. There you are. Okay. So after you introduce yourself, if you would answer this question. In your response on mandatory training for implicit bias and cultural sensitivity, you only answered with support in training for attorneys seeking or receiving court appointments. Do you support implicit bias and cultural sensitivity training for all judges and police officers as well? And how will you push for this policy?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Leah Shapiro and I'm the judge in the 315th Juvenile District Court. Thank you for having me. So just a little bit about me in the court. So we handle juvenile delinquency cases. So whenever there's an allegation of a criminal offense was committed between the ages of 10 and 17. And then we also handle dependency cases. So those are CPS cases when there's allegations of abuse and neglect. Through my 15 years of public service, I was a public defender, I was a prosecutor, and now as a judge, I've made some amazing progressive changes, like ending indiscriminate shackling in our courtroom. We've also done the dual status docket, and we've also reduced TJJD dispositions, or kids are not entering into the juvenile prison system as they were before, which means our kids are staying at home and in their schools. And with their families, and their families are participating with their community in their rehabilitative services. So to your question regarding implicit bias, yes, so the judiciary, so stepping back just a little bit, I was part of the judiciary that actually worked very actively with the bar. And amongst the judges ourselves, we agreed that if we were going to ask this of our practitioners in order to get appointments and to lift all ships, that we participate as well. So I worked on the test pilot program with the Houston Bar Association and the fellow judiciary and private practitioners. And I actually called in some of the people who received appointments in my courtroom and said, what do y'all think about this? And all of them were incredibly supportive. And so now, and I also sponsored the amendment to our FDAMS program to the juvenile board that required the implicit bias training that passed through the juvenile board for the delinquency appointments. In terms of law enforcement and other agencies, I actively engage them through diversion programs and reevaluating how we have kids contact our system. Our probation department with the juvenile probation department is also becoming trained in TBRI as well as implicit bias. All of these systems and how we are engaging, and the engagement has to start with ourselves, right? Like so much of this is what we understand about ourselves to then engage in different and new ways. So I work with the probation department about continuing to improve their training and their systems. We work with schools and educators. So we worked, this is pre-COVID, we actually it was called the School Justice Partnership, where Revision, as well as the Texas Center for Justice and Equity, went out and we met with law enforcement agents who work in the school districts. You heard a little bit about that earlier, how they're our biggest referral source, unfortunately, to the juvenile delinquency system. So we need to engage them, and we need to, again, reevaluate how we are thinking and engaging one another, and that starts with understanding ourselves. And so that's kind of a snapshot in some of the work we're doing, and there is work to be done. And so I will continue to push for those reforms and that education.
Thank you. And this is a lightning question. I think this is just a yes, no. And Jeremy and Scott, we've kind of changed up our system of how we've done this. Would this just be a raise your hand or don't raise your hand? Use the feature?
I think the quickest feature would just be raise your hand if yes, if not, don't do anything. So everyone that just participated in this section 2 panel with Ruth and I, here's the question. So if it's a yes answer, you would just do the feature, put the hand up. So here's the question. Do you take money from corporate PACs? So give everybody just a chance. No. Okay. So I think we're moving on. It's time to pass this back to Jeremy. And I think you're going to, well, go. Sorry. No problem. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Ruth. All right. Normally we were going to take a break, but we're a little behind. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into our third panel. The one everyone's been waiting for, civil justices and the Court of Appeals. Yeah, the spicy one. So Just to recap on the rules of the panel, for those of you who may have introduced yourself earlier or may have left and come a little late, we will be asking one question to all of the candidates. You will be given 3 minutes to give an answer. Please, during your answer, also introduce yourself and your race. We ask that you please keep an eye on Scott Fulis. He will be our timekeeper. If you see green, you're good to go. You see yellow, please wrap up your answer, and because you only have 30 seconds left. And if you see red, please stop. We have a lot of candidates. As I said earlier, we're also running a little behind time. So please be respectful, do not overspeak, and give everyone their chance to speak as well. At the very end, we'll do a quick little lightning round for questions, and then we will introduce the ballots so everyone can vote. So let's go ahead and get this started. Our first candidate is Mr. Mike Engelhart for the First Court of Appeals, Place 4. Mr. Engelhart, are you here?
I'm here. Hello, can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can hear you. So your question is, the public perception that is that corporations have the resources to crush the little guy in court, especially a person representing themselves. You wrote that certain procedures in the Court of Appeals can be simplified so that corporations do not run roughshod over pro se litigants unnecessarily. Is this a systematic change or a smaller fix?
I think if I'm elected to the Court of Appeals, you'll find it will be a systematic change. I'm Judge Mike Engelhart. I've been a judge for over 13 years at the 151st Civil District Court. It's great to be with you, and thank you for inviting me to screen for this endorsement today. It's been the honor of my life to serve as a district court judge, and I have endeavored in that role to create a level playing field for everybody that comes before me, including folks who are not represented by counsel. In that time, through when we had District Clerk Lauren Jackson, and now with Marilyn Burgess, we have worked really, really hard to create forms and simplify procedures so that folks who are not represented by counsel can have a good chance of finding representation, or in routine matters, be able to file forms to avoid foreclosure, to avoid default judgments, to prosecute name changes and gender ID changes without counsel, or if they have counsel, then in a very straightforward and streamlined manner. And so this year I'm running for the Court of Appeals, and that covers the 10-county area. So we'll have folks who are not just Harris County folks, but folks from all over a very rural area, a rural part of Texas, in Fort Bend, Brazoria, Galveston, Grimes, Austin, Colorado, and a couple of other counties. And so these are folks who don't often interact with trial courts, much less the Court of Appeals. As you may know, that the Court of Appeals is the court of last resort for just about 95% of all the cases that are appealed from trial courts around the state. And to that end, that is the last chance that folks will have to find justice if they're unhappy with what happened at the trial court. So what I would envision is a series of forms, a series of shorter briefing requirements, quicker briefing requirements, quicker turnaround, and more interaction with the courts, and oral hearings so that we can give guidance to folks who are not represented by counsel. I do not recommend trying to pursue your appeal without counsel, but if you find yourself without counsel as a last resort, we need to make it easier, because there is no reason that folks that don't have counsel can't have a fair day in court. And so it would be a series of forms, simplified procedures, and we would work with Chris Prine, the clerk of both courts, to make sure that that process is accessible, both online and in person, that there is instructions and tutorials for folks to be able to have their day in court, even at the Court of Appeals, so that justice does not trample over them, whether they are a big corporation, a wealthy individual represented by counsel or insurance, or just a pro se person trying to vindicate their rights and have their day in court.
Thank you. Our next question is for candidate William Demond. Is William Demond here?
I am, thank you.
Hello, Mr. Demond. Given that decisions about trainings for judges, attorneys, and court staff are generally administrative and not ruled upon by courts, what is your personal feeling about the importance of implicit bias training for judges, attorneys, and court staff? You have 3 minutes.
My name is William Demond. I am a constitutional rights attorney, and I am running for the 14th Court of Appeals, place 9, as a Democrat. With respect to implicit bias training, I think that the answer is simple. I think that it is important for judges and for staff. Quite simple. I think that it'd be helpful for anybody to have. I think that it'd be helpful to understand what implicit bias looks like. And I think that all staff should undergo it. And I think that if I had a hand in my staff, and I believe that eventually I will, that would be required.
All right. Thank you for your answer. I like the straightforwardness. We usually don't get that from judges, so it's a nice little change of pace. All right, our next question is for Mrs. Cheri Thomas. Cheri Thomas, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Ms. Thomas, as an appellate court justice, you will work with other justices to decide each case. When you encounter judges who do not share your progressive stance on something, how would you try to persuade them to join your side?
You know, when judges work, well, first of all, I'm Cheri Thomas. I'm running for the 14th Court of Appeals, place 2. And as in with respect to any appeal, the cases are decided with respect to the facts and the law. So when I'm working with a panel that is in disagreement with my position on a particular case, I've got to work very hard to show them how the facts and the law support my position. And I've been an appellate lawyer for several years. I worked on over 65 appeals in just the last few years. This is what I do. I enjoy doing it. I'm good at it. And I think I'm in a good position to do that. I've also worked on the Court of Appeals as a staff attorney. So I understand how these decisions are made, how sometimes personalities can get in the way of perhaps a productive discussion that might move a case forward. So I think it's important not just to be to be proficient and persuasive with the facts and the law, showing them what the law requires, how the facts, require a certain result in a particular case, but also to be, one that can get along with others, whether you're in agreement with them or not, so that you can at least have those discussions, so they're receptive to listening. It's important to be on this court, to be a very good listener, to be a careful reader, and to be a deep thinker. And I want to talk a little bit about a case that I worked on recently, just to give an example. It reinforced my decision to run. It was a illegal reentry case in a federal criminal appeal. And in this particular case, this gentleman, he pled guilty, but then in the plea hearing, he was deprived of an interpreter. He was a Spanish speaker, and he wasn't provided an interpreter for the plea hearing, so he did not understand what was going on. It was right after the beginning of COVID, so there was probably some confusion. There were 2 defendants. It was on Zoom. It may have been a complete mistake, but in any event, he was federally entitled to an interpreter under the Court Interpreters Act. He was not provided one. His plea was nonetheless accepted, and then moving on to the sentencing hearing, although the government recommended a sentence of 4 months for illegal reentry, that is coming into the country as a non-citizen, the judge gave him a sentence of 60 months. So 5 years, treated him with utter disdain. On appeal, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals summarily addressed the interpreter issue, didn't engage in any significant analysis, and said, that's a long sentence, but we've given we've affirmed longer sentences. To me, it was a prime example of court not taking an individual seriously, not looking carefully at the law and the facts in that particular case, and treating a defendant with disrespect and disdain. And so that's why I'm running. I hope I can make a difference, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Our next question is for Ms. Monica Singh for the Civil Court at Law number 4.
Hi, I'm here.
Hello, Ms. Singh. Your question is, within the rules of judicial conduct, you want to provide litigants who are representing themselves with resources to help guide them through the process. That sounds good on paper, but so often resources are either inadequate or there's no way to effectively reach those who need the resources. Please explain what you would do differently.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for our revolution. And then the hostess with the mostest, Scott Wellis. Thank you so much. My name is Monica Singh, and I'm running for Civil County Court at Law number 4. It's an open seat. There's no incumbent. It's an open bench because Leslie Bonis has stepped down. And Harris County has the opportunity to make history by electing me the first female Sikh judge in the entire United States. My parents immigrated to Houston, making me a native Houstonian. I'm a wife and I'm a mother of 2 teenage boys. I've been an attorney for the past 20 years and I've tried over 100 cases to juries. I have the experience knowing the bench that I'm running for. I understand clients and attorneys. And while I have a wealth of experience as a civil litigator, I'm equally dedicated to fighting for justice and equality as an activist. I serve on the board of the ACLU, the Sikh Coalition, and the Grievance Committee. I've completed leadership classes with the Harvard Leadership Academy, Facebook, FBI Citizens Academy, and Leadership Houston. And so with my involvement in the community, I'm well versed in resources that our community has to offer and marry them into the court I'll serve. And that leads right into the answer for that question. You're right, it is good on paper that we say we'll bring resources to the courtroom, but I have been a community activist for every bit of the 20 years plus. I know what resources are out there that are untapped. I know that there's community organizations that have funding that go unclaimed. And the awareness of having these resources and bringing them into the courtroom is fundamental. And the way that that happens is somebody like me who could say, oh, I remember crossing paths with this organization and it would be a good fit for this person here in front of me. Now let's talk about the eviction docket. We have the opportunity to hear cases that are eviction cases. I will send my docket before they come to the courtroom a week in advance, like the other courts do in the county court system, to the Houston Lawyers Referral Program, so that they may get that resource before they enter into my courtroom. Why do I know that? It's because I'm on the ground, and that's what we need. We don't need people who show up during campaign season. We need people who are actually in the community, and I'm that community, and I hope to earn your vote, and definitely the Our Revolution endorsement today. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your answer. Our next question is for Mr. David Patronella. Are you here, Mr. Patronella?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Patronella, you are also running for the Civil Court at Law number 4, and your question is, you say the single most pressing issue is housing insecurity during this epidemic. How will you address this as a judge?
Thank you. Good question. And thank you, Our Revolution, for allowing me and the other candidates to appear before you today. Let me first of all say, as a lifelong progressive Democrat with a history of serving in public office, I'm proud to say that I have always supported the opportunity for people to be heard in court and to be heard before an impartial judge. As a judge, I've been highly rated in Houston Bar Association polls throughout my time as a judge. I was named Texas Judge of the Year in 2019 by the association, and I've taught judges and clerks on ethics and procedures for 25 years. I've diversified my staff so that my staff now is 75% persons of color. When I first went into the office, it was 75% Anglo. So we represent the community that we serve. With regard to evictions, we've taken the lead in Harris County, and in fact, in the state, in terms of the way we've handled these cases. We have, during this time of housing insecurity, we have brought Lone Star Legal Aid, we brought the Alliance in on our hearings so that individuals can have the opportunity to qualify for rental assistance. In fact, most recently, we have had Gulf Coast legal aid attorneys some new ones come in on the docket, and they've commented about how progressive our court has been in allowing these folks to be able to get assistance through cooperating with the landlord and the tenant and the organizations. So we've been very transparent in the way we've conducted these. And in the fact, in the last 3 to 4 months, what we've seen is 80% of our non-payment of rent cases in Harris County in my court have resolved in either non-suits or dismissal because of the work that we've taken. In fact, Houston Housers, one of the groups representing low-income tenants, when they reviewed the courts, cited our court as being one of the most transparent in the county in the way that we conduct our hearings, and lauded the fact that we involve so many parties to be proactive, that it's beneficial for tenants in our particular precinct. And it was unfortunate that not everybody else was following suit. I'm also proud to say, in fact, in this race, that I've received unsolicited contributions from some of the poverty lawyers who have represented clients in my court because they've been pleased with the way that the court has involved and allowed people to be protected during this very difficult time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patronella, for your answer. Our next question goes to you as well, sir, and Monica Singh. Because both of you are running for the same position, the question is, if you do not win the primary, will you support the winner if they are an OR endorsed candidate? Ms. Singh, could you answer first?
Absolutely. I've not only been a lifelong Democrat, I've actually been on the ground with Harris County Democratic Party for years. I've supported other candidates throughout their candidacy, so it's kind of actually even awkward that I'm running now. So 110%, no matter who it is, the strongest candidate should be supported because we have to win November. I'm actually more worried about November and the state of our nation. So to me, it's all about the team. It's not about the individual. And so I will be behind whoever it is that we choose.
Thank you, Ms. Singh. We want to remind our candidates to please answer this question in yes or no for the sake of time. Mr. Patronella.
Let me say, I'm just real quickly, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've always supported the Democratic ticket from being president of Young Democrats at U of H through the legislature, Democrat. I've always supported our party and our platform.
Thank you very much. Our next question is for a Ms. I apologize if I mispronounce this. Lima Barazi?
Lema Barazi.
Lema. All right, Lema Barazi, I apologize. You're running for the 189th Civil District Court, and your question, question number 6 on our questionnaire stated, have you been involved in any proceedings which you were sanctioned, held in contempt, or found to have engaged in conduct that indicates dishonesty, false statement, fraud, misrepresentation, abuse of process, violation of court order, or other bad act? In your response, it seemed that you were discussing the actions of another lawyer rather than yourself. Was this a misunderstanding, and can you give more clarity to the situation?
Yes, just a little bit about myself. So my name is Lema Barazi. I'm running for the 189th District Court. I immigrated to Houston, Texas with my family when I was a child. We immigrated from Damascus, Syria. And so we had to learn a completely new language and culture. I grew up in Houston, attended public schools here in Houston. I attended the University of Houston for undergrad and for law school. And when I graduated, I became a felony prosecutor, and I prosecuted felony crimes for a while. And then I got married and transitioned into civil litigation. I have litigated civil matters in over 10 areas. I've done personal injury. I've done complex commercial litigation. I have done medical device litigation. And I've also done counterterrorism cases where I've represented veterans, US veterans, and Gold Star families against the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I currently am an adjunct professor of business law and constitutional law, and I am the litigation partner for an intellectual property boutique firm. I handle the litigation docket. And so, yeah, to answer your question, so unfortunately, there are very unethical attorneys amongst us. And sometimes there are attorneys that need to be called out for their actions. I was recently involved in a case where an attorney coached his client to lie and to claim, to allege allegations of abuse. And the daughter involved actually confessed. And so I called out that attorney and I moved to disqualify him based on his actions and based on the fraud that was involved. Unfortunately, the judge overseeing the case wouldn't allow certain evidence into the case. And so basically that was a very unfortunate incident, and it demonstrated that there's a lot of implicit and explicit bias. The client involved is a Middle Eastern man who is also a Muslim, and so that's one of the reasons that I'm running. It's because I'm tired of the explicit and implicit bias that's in our court system, and I want to change that. As an Arab American Muslim female, I believe that I can, and we've never had an Arab American judge in Texas's history, and I'm looking to be the first. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Our next question also goes to you as well. One of your opponents in the race is also one of our endorsed candidates. He is not here today. He was one of our renewal endorsed candidates from last month. So we have to ask you, if you do not win this primary, will you support the winner if they are an OR endorsed candidate?
Absolutely, 100%. I've been a Democrat all my life, and I'm not going to stop being a Democrat. So 100%, I will support Scott Dollinger.
Thank you very much. Our next question is for Miss Angela Graves Harrington. Miss Harrington, are you here today?
I am.
Hello, Miss Harrington.
Hello.
You're running for the 246th Family District Court, and your question is, as an experienced family court judge, what do you propose to motivate deadbeat parents to fulfill their existing child support obligations?
Wow, that's a tough one because that's honestly outside the realm of my job as a judge. The only thing that I can do is, when the cases are brought before me, is to offer alternative solutions or alternative solutions to jail time. When parents come before the court and they are deficient or behind in their child support payments, the court does have the opportunity to provide information on jobs, educational training, and as opposed to just putting them in jail. I do think that sending someone to jail for failure to pay child support should be something of a last resort, after it is shown that the person is intentionally non-compliant with the cases, with their order. So in terms of, I don't know if you can necessarily force anyone to do anything that they don't want to do, but the court can make it very well clear that a violation of the order and failure to pay child support can result in jail time, and show the obligor parent that the court is trying to work with them to give them an opportunity to pay the child support that they owe. So a little bit about me. My name is Judge Angela Graves Harrington. I am the presiding judge of the 246th District Court. I'm also the administrative judge of all of the courts, family courts in Harris County. I'm an adjunct professor. I started a child welfare clinic at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. I am also I'm also a committee member for the Supreme Court of Texas Children's Commission. I was appointed by the Supreme Court in 2019, and then also a trauma-informed court, pilot court. So what that means is, over the past 2.5 years, well, 3 years that I've been on the bench, I have viewed all of my cases through a trauma-informed lens, meaning that I focus on the actual issues that brought the person into court, and as well as the things that caused that person to act the way they did. So instead of asking people when they come into court, what did you do wrong or why did you do this? My question is always, what happened to you and how can we fix this? My court is a court of restoration, not just families, but also of self. So a person comes in and they have underlying issues that actually need to be addressed. I don't just rush through the cases for the sake of clearing my docket and having the highest number of clearances in my court, because each person is a person and they deserve individualized attention to their cases. Finally, I will say that during my time on the bench, I have reached out to people in the community because I understand that I am a judge, but I'm a judge plus. So I'm a judge on the bench, and I'm also a member of the community who understands my obligation is to transform my court so that there is a positive impact on the community. If you have any questions about me, thank you. I'll stop now.
Thank you. Our next question is for Ms. Gloria Lopez.
Hello, I'm here.
Hello, Ms. Lopez. In your answer on bail reform, you said an unfairly high bond placed on a poor first-time defendant keeps a defendant in jail too long. But what do you think is fair? Do you personally support eliminating cash bail?
First, my name is Gloria Lopez. I am the incumbent for the 308th Family District Court. I have been on the bench for 3 years. Prior to taking the bench, I was exclusively practicing family law, and I will be frank with everybody. Bail reform and bail is not something that we deal with on a daily basis as family court judges. When we do set bail, it's based upon a capias that we must issue for failure to appear in court on a motion to enforce for failure to pay child support. So my opinion in regards to that would probably mimic or parallel what Judge Anastasio said in regards to the federal stance based upon my research and my experience intellectually, not by practice. I will say that the criminal felony as well as misdemeanors have more experience in regards to that. But again, I will reiterate my response would be that it would be best to parallel federal stance than eliminate it exclusively.
Thank you for your answer. Our next question is for Mr. Paul Calzada.
Hi, I'm here. Hello.
How are you doing, Mr. Calzada?
I'm doing well,
running,
thank you.
You're running for the 312th Family District Court, and your question is, how will you build upon and improve implicit bias training for your court staff?
Great. Okay. Well, first off, thanks for the question. Thanks for having me and all the other candidates here today. My name is Paul Calzada. I'm running for the 312th Family District Court. I'm a current member of our Revolution. In fact, I was here at the first meeting we had here in Houston. I think that's the first time I met Jim Hightower. That would have been around 5 years ago. I'm a native Houstonian, as are my kids. I live here in Houston with my wife and children. Before law school, I worked as a family crisis intervention specialist for Tarrant County MHMR. After law school, I practiced primarily just family law. I've worked at Aid to Victims of Domestic Abuse, otherwise known as AVDA. It's a nonprofit law firm that represents victims of domestic violence in family court. I also spent about a year or so working in immigration law during the ex-president's first year in office, solely based on the fact that that administration's policies hurt families, and I knew I had to do something. But other than that, the vast majority of my practice has been family law. When I think about implicit bias, you know, the funny thing about implicit bias is a lot of people know the phrase implicit bias or know that implicit bias exists, but by its very nature, it's difficult to really tease out, right, what that implicit bias, how it affects us. So what I talk about in my questionnaire and what I think is important to understand is that, you know, only by training and experiencing kind of on the meta level what implicit bias does, can you really recognize it in your own actions. And so what I would like to see is that we have, if not possible to do it mandatory, but to have a very strong incentive for all of the staff to take implicit bias training and also cultural sensitivity training. I believe that we've got to be proactive when we do that. We can't just assume that, you know, because someone's taking an implicit bias training class that they know it and that they're good with it and they don't have to deal with it. I think it needs to be an ongoing thing that we do. I also would like to encourage any of the attorneys who want to apply to be on the wheel or who want to get appointed in those courts to also show that they are taking that issue seriously and attend those classes. And I would like it to be on a regular basis. I also intend, as part of working with the staff and part of my staff meetings, is to go over issues that I think that are important for the court. So what I would like to see is we have the classes and we have follow-up on those classes. I feel very strongly about that. The staff of the courts interact with the public, sometimes more often than the actual judges do. And so I think it's important that that be a focus continued throughout the term. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Our next candidate is Ms. Sonia Lopez.
I'm here.
Yes, Ms. Sonia Lopez. You're running for the Justice of Peace Precinct 1, Place 2. And your question is, in your response to other reforms lessening the inequities of the justice system, you suggest, quote, we expand access to representation, such as fully funding the public defender's office and legal aid services. Will you explain this statement in greater detail?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, well, first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Sonia Lopez. I'm a candidate for Justice of the Peace Precinct 1, Place 2, a lifelong resident of the East Tech-Jensen area, product of Houston Public Schools, and public servant all my life. Out of undergrad, I began working for State Representative Ana Hernandez, who represents the east part of town. And after that, I went to law school, and since then, I've been working for the Houston Federation of Teachers. So for me, working in our communities and working to represent working class families has been very important. I'm also active in my community through our super neighborhood, which I helped resurrect, as well as in the project administrator for the National Hispanic Institute, which is a leadership training program for students where I mentor and help high school students through their leadership development. And this is something that is really important to me. Sorry, I try to keep my daughter out as long as possible. It's very important to me to continue to work with the next generation. I've been doing this work for over 10 years with the National Hispanic Institute. Public service is in my blood and it's part of me. And so what I meant by my answer is that I think that inequities occur because many members of our communities don't have access to legal services. They don't even know if they're available. So I know the Public Defender's Office in Harris County is fairly new. It was, I know that Senator Ellis, when he was senator, he passed that legislation. And I think that if we can expand access to public defenders and legal aid services and members of our community, particularly in Justice of the Peace courts, will have a better opportunity to seek justice. In JP courts, you know, that's where people go and they're pro se. Many of the litigants are pro se. They don't understand what's going on. You know, especially in eviction cases, it's very difficult for someone who's being evicted to pay for an attorney. You can't pay your rent, you can't pay an attorney. Members of the community where I grew up in East Tech-Jensen, I'm the first attorney in my family. You know, many of us are the first to go to college. And so in our communities, it's important that there is access to that. And even though these services exist, many times we don't know about them. So I think it's important that in the Justice of the Peace courts, these resources are offered, information is given to community members that attend, that have to go to court. Because again, this is the court of the people, and it is where people are introduced to the courts. The majority of the community is not filing, you know, large civil action lawsuits and whatnot. It's more likely that they're going to get a traffic ticket or small, you know, small claim issue or a writ or an eviction. And it's important that these resources are available to the community and they're informed of it. So that's what I meant with my answer. Maybe I didn't explain it as well in the questionnaire, but I hope that you know, answers it for you all. And again, I just think it's important that our community understands that there is resources available to them. Not everybody has to be pro se. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Our next candidate is Mr. Steve Duble.
Hi, Steve Duble, actually.
Duble, I apologize.
No problem.
Steve Duble, your question is, in your response to workers unionizing, you are in favor of unions. What worker rights do you support by unionizing?
Right to healthcare, right for fair wages, and right not to be oppressed by their employer. I've been, first of all, my name is Steve Duble. I was raised in Houston, been practicing law for over 30 years. Grew up in Sharpstown. I raised 3 children with my ex-wife in the Westbury area. One of those children is helping me run my campaign. Two of them live in New York right now. One's in grad school. And I'm married now to my husband, Evan, who teaches at Rice. And just to let you know, my ex-wife actually has a yard sign for me out in front of her house in the Heights. And I'm very proud of that fact, and we have a good relationship. I've been very involved in a group called Harris County Democratic Lawyers for the past 10 or 15 years. And I've really worked on bringing a social justice lens to the programming that we've had. We just did a program with the unions the other day, and we had 5 or 6 union representatives from the AFL-CIO, including the Associate General Counsel. And I've always been a supporter of workers' rights. And it was actually the candidate forum that they did for this race that spurred me we needed to offer that to our members in Harris County Democratic Lawyers. I've been a litigator both as a solo practitioner with big firms, medium-sized firms, recently worked at the county attorney's office under Kristen Menifee, and now back at my solo practice and devoting myself to this campaign. I'm running because I want to make Justice of the Peace Precinct 1, Place 2, a model court for Texas, a model progressive court. The pandemic really shined a light on the problem we have with evictions, and evictions is the big ticket item in this court. And we had the eviction crisis prior to the pandemic. It's just gotten worse with the pandemic, and it really shined a light on it. And as I've campaigned, I've also been meeting with community advocates and homelessness advocates and homeless advocates, and finding out that the bigger problem is lack of affordable housing here in Harris County. But I can't do a whole lot about that, but this the position of Justice of the Peace is one part of it, and we can do a lot to help people in need. And I'd really like to expand the social services in the JP court. These courts have staffs of like 20 to 25 people. And I'd like to bring in an eviction level clerk at one of the highest levels. And I'd like to work with the community to reduce evictions. Steve Dubel, appreciate your vote, appreciate your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dupel. This next question is both for you and Mrs. Lopez. Since both of you are running for the same position, I will ask, if you do not win the primary, will you support the winner if they are an OR endorsed candidate? Ms. Lopez, could you answer first?
Absolutely. Lifelong Democrat. No, of course.
Mr. Dupel?
Yes.
Thank you all for a very brief answer. See, Scott, we're learning. All right, our final candidate on our panel is Ms. Dolores Lozano. Are you here, Ms. Lozano?
Yes, I am. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, how are you?
Block walking.
So you're running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2, Place 2. And your question is, in response to implicit bias training for all judges and police officers, your answer was, quote, "We all have some form of implicit bias. It is important to identify it to curb unfair judgments," end quote. As an elected official, how do you handle your implicit bias? And do you support implicit bias training for all judges and officers? And if so, why do you see this as needed?
Thank you for that question, and thank you for having me today. I think it's absolutely needed to have implicit bias training. As a proud daughter of a police officer, I have learned too, and through my trainings on implicit bias, how important it is to understand where everyone comes from. We are a product of our environment, and we need to make sure that we're not discriminating against others with a biased background. And so I think it is important that everyone unlearns discriminatory practices that they had been taught growing up. And a little bit about myself. My name is Dolores Lozano. I'm running to be the next Justice of the Peace in Precinct 2, Place 2. I'm a first-generation college graduate, born to working-class parents in Southeast Houston. Started my career working with underserved youth as a speech therapist, and took an opportunity later to work in the sports field. I was able to work for the Super Bowl when it was here in Houston, where I worked with stakeholders across the county, state, and the country. I was able to help bring $347 million of economic impact and help thousands of youth throughout that process. Through that community involvement work, I decided to go into the nonprofit sector. At Baker Ripley, I helped tenants with rental relief, with the rental relief program, as well as food distributions. After that, I became a small business owner, which I am today. Not only do I help small businesses with their communications and marketing needs, but I have been helping small businesses with rental relief funds to ensure that they can keep going. I'm running because over the last 35 years, we've seen a rise of evictions, an increase of truancy, and a lack of access to resources in our community. And I'm running to make sure that our court is convenient, compassionate, and community-centered. It's astonishing to see that less than 4% of tenants have representation. As a survivor of domestic violence and seeing firsthand how unjust our justice system can be, I want to ensure that everyone is properly represented in my courtroom. I want to ensure that our translators are provided that are not bailiffs, that are actually true translators that are for the people. Again, my name is Dolores Lozano. I'm running to be the next Justice of the Peace in Precinct 2, Place 2. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. All right, we will finish this panel with our lightning question. Our lightning question will be, do you take money from corporate PACs? The way we'll do this is very simple. Just to eliminate any type of confusion, I'm just going to call your name and then you're going to say yes or no. I think that would be the simplest way. So again, the question is, do you take money from corporate PACs? And we will start with Mr. Mike Engelhart.
No.
Okay. Next we have Mr. William Demond.
He left to go to another screening.
Okay. Miss Cheri Thomas.
No.
Monica Singh.
I think she had to go as well.
Understand. David Patronella. All right. I'm guessing he left as well. Miss Lima Barazi.
Lemma, I think she's gone. I just want, no, she's here. She's here. I just want to say it right one time.
Lima. Feels like the first day of class.
Lemma, are you there? Oh,
You're
maybe
just
she's
showing off.
She's away from the computer.
We may come back. Miss Angela Graves Harrington.
No.
Gloria Lopez.
No.
Paula Calzada.
No.
Miss Sonia Lopez.
No.
Mr. Steve Dubel.
No.
And Mrs. Dolores Lozano.
No.
All right. I will try again. Lima, are you there? Miss Barazi? All right. Well, in that case, let's thank you, all our candidates. We are now concluding our third panel for our Civic and Court of Appeal candidates. And now it is the part that everybody is waiting for, the actual voting. So in order to vote, I would hope that one of my steering committee members can put the link to the ballot in the chat, or you can use your phone to scan the QR code on the screen. This will give you access to the ballot. Mind you, only members are allowed to vote. In order to be considered a member, you would have to pay our $27 a year membership pay, or you could have put in some volunteer hours with us. So if you did help us block walk, phone bank, work on a committee within the past year, you are a member and you are eligible to vote. Ballots will be open until midnight tonight. So if you would like to do your own further research on your candidates, you have the time later this afternoon. But we ask that you please submit your ballots before midnight, and then we will reveal our endorsed candidates as soon as we can. All candidates, whether you get accepted the endorsement or not, will get a notification. So please check your emails. And I will keep this up a little bit longer in case there's anyone else who needs to scan anything. Just so you know, I now see that Scott has posted the ballot in the chat, so you can click on that link as well. All right, moving on. Latanya, you have the next slide.
Okay, guys. Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming and answering all of these questions. Everyone did a great job. And I'd like to thank the endorsement committee for organizing this forum today. Actually, I was a part of that endorsement committee, and it was the first time for me. And it was really something. We laughed, we cried. No, I'm kidding. We didn't do any crying, but it was some serious, intense conversations. The bar was set very, very high, but we worked very hard every Monday at 7 p.m. sharp, sometimes to 9:30. You know, we were there. And we took this very, very seriously. Scott, Latanya, Ruth, Chuck, Linda, Bill, Maria, Rich, John, Jeremy, Joy, and Maria Benson. I would like to say from the steering committee, thank you very much for taking your time and your effort. I got a couple of quotes here. Effort, you took your time and effort preparing for the forum. This was what people were saying in the chat. Your time and effort. They were happy with having the opportunity to be here. And so everyone was really, really appreciative. And so again, I'd just like to say thank you again. For further instructions, I think I'm gonna turn it over to, I was gonna say Jeremy, but I don't see him anymore. That's
He passed out.
okay. Yeah, I think so. He can handle it. But we all know what to do. We need to vote. We have to 12 p.m. tonight to make sure that we send in our votes. So don't forget, guys, it's 12 p.m. and that's it.
Real quick, Latanya, Lemma made it back in. Lemma, can you unmute?
Yes, I'm here.
Just tell us real quick if you take money from corporate PACs. That's the only thing you missed.
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
And I think I was supposed to explain the voting. The voting is endorse, don't endorse, or neutral for all the candidates that were part of the forum today. Endorse means you think we should endorse them. Don't endorse means you think we should not endorse them. And neutral means you don't really care if we endorse them or not. They didn't particularly, give you a decision point. So like Latanya said, that'll be open till the end of the day. You must be a member, which means you donate $27 a year or $3 a month or more to our Revolution, or you volunteer for us, and that has to have begun before this month. Just to be careful. Any questions? Latanya, did you have anything else?
I think we discussed any type of, if you're a member of just our Revolution or our Revolution Texas, you're still eligible to vote. Is that correct? Okay. So I just wanted to get that out there. And as far as that is it, everybody.
Move to adjourn?
Yes. We can adjourn.
So you won't
Thank
get
you
kicked
very
out until Jeremy comes back since he hosted the meeting, but good to see everybody.
Well,
This
done.
was-
That
Great
was an excellent
organization.
meeting. Way to go.
Great meeting.
I wish we could have asked more than one question per candidate, but there's too many of you guys.
Really great. It was very well run. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.